Wouldn't you love to be regarded as an articulate speaker? So often people come to me and say, I really want to be as articulate as he is, or she's such an articulate person. I wish that was me. But it doesn't have to be a wish, because it is a skill. It is a learned skill. And today I'm going to take you through all the tips and the techniques that you can become an articulate speaker as good as anybody else.
All eyes on me.
Hi, I'm Jane and welcome back to my channel. Thank you to everyone who's subscribed. Please continue to subscribe and leave comments in the box below. Tell me what you would like me to address in the world of communication and public speaking. Being articulate, it truly is regarded as a great skill to possess. Whether it's social or business, we admire those people who are articulate. But as I said, we can all be articulate. It's a learned skill. Let's start off with a bit of a definition, a layman's definition of what being articulate is. People who are articulate have the ability to use the right word at the right time to clearly, precisely, and concisely express their thoughts. That's all it is. They have the right word, they use it at the right time, and they express their thoughts concisely in a short manner. That's what being articulate is. So how are we going to go about doing this? The first thing is we have to look at literally the word, finding the right word. Being articulate requires a good, strong vocabulary. Now, most of us have a good command of our vocabulary. We have a fairly wide vocabulary, but it might be within a certain area. We're not adding words in day after day. What happens is that people who stick with that smaller vocabulary, the day-to-day vocabulary, are not an ability to reach for the right word at the precise time. So let's think about this in terms of, let's do an analogy and talk about a craftsman. So we have a craftsman, we have somebody who goes into a house and does projects with wood, right? That craftsman in his life as a craftsman will have two buckets. He has a very, very, very big bucket with many, many highly precise tools that do very specific jobs in his big bucket. But he doesn't need that bucket all the time. So what he has is he has a small bucket, and in there are 50 tools, 20 tools that he uses day after day after day for his basic jobs, right? Small bucket, basic tools, bigger bucket, precise tools. Now he gets called into a situation where it's a very complicated job he's required to do, and none of the tools in his small bucket are really going to be that helpful. So what he has the ability to do is reach into the big bucket and find the exact specific tool that will do that specific job. Now what my analogy means is that articulate speakers are the craftsman who has the big bucket that they use as well as the small bucket. Whereas day-to-day speakers, everyday speakers, tend to rely on the small bucket. Because if you're going to be looking to be articulate and you need to use that precise word, you will come up against situations where the words in the small bucket no longer serve you. You need that specific exact word, that tool. But it doesn't help if you reach for the tool and you're first of all not sure what tool you're meant to be looking for, or you find a tool but you have no idea how to use it, right? That's people who are inarticulate. They know those words. They just don't use them and employ them. Sometimes they're not even sure of the real definition of those words. The articulate people have a small bucket, but when they need that big bucket tool, they can just reach in, grab it, they know exactly what it does, they use it, and they have a much more successful outcome. That's simply how it works. So in order to be more articulate, unfortunately, we have to add to the big bucket. And I say unfortunate because we have to do it intentionally and deliberately. It doesn't just osmose into our brains. Have a look where you are spending most of your time when reading or listening. If you're reading, listening to a very firm set of input. So the same magazines, the same books, the same journals, the same online people, the same podcasts, TV shows, movies. You're probably going to have words that fall in your smaller bucket you'll use them day after day after day, right? But if you want to be articulate, you're going to have to add to that bigger bucket. But if you stay with all of those sources of material, you're not coming against words you don't know. So my challenge is you need to start expanding, casting your net a bit wider as to the sources you go to where you're reading or listening. Because that's how you get exposed to greater words that can go into your bigger bucket. And at the end, I'm going to give you clear exercises how you can do this in a highly effective manner. So that is the key element. The first key element of articulate speakers is that they have a very big vocabulary and they know the exact word that will fit the task in hand. That's the bottom line. The second thing with very articulate speakers is that they come across as being very thoughtful. They probably speak a bit slower. And they take pauses when they're speaking. You visualize someone you imagine. Just picture someone you imagine as very articulate. And I guarantee that image will strike home. They're thoughtful, they speak slower, and they pause. Now, why are they doing that? Were they born articulate and these behaviors came along with it? Not a chance. They adopted the behaviors which elevated their ability to be articulate. It's that simple. So this is the good news. These behaviors we can adopt, and I've covered them in so many of my videos. I'll link one right here. You can jump to it at the end. These behaviors are eminently possible. You can do these with great ease. It just takes practice. So what are those sneaky articulate people doing? The first thing they're doing is that they never rush to respond. They will always pause before answering, before responding, because that gives them time to organize their thoughts. So they're not just these deeply thinkers. They are people who can reach for that right word because they've given themselves the time to organize the thought. So when they start speaking, they're not umming and ahhing, I mean, you know. They don't do any of that. They've got the thought organized already, and they come straight out the gate with a clear sentence, a well-expressed idea. As they're speaking, they will often pause as well. This is not to just display gravitas. They're pausing because, again, they're reaching over, picture in your mind, they're reaching over and they're finding that exact tool, that exact word that's going to work in that situation. So they will pause until they can come up with the word that they truly want to use, that they know is going to be perfect there. And the last thing they do is they slow down the rate at which they speak. Because again, it's much easier to remain articulate if you're not whipping through your words, because you're pausing, you're slowing down so that you make sure every single word counts. The last thing they do, you'll pay attention. They tend to speak in shorter sentences, simple, shorter sentences. Why? Because it's much easier to hold a train of thought in a shorter sentence than it is in a long run-on complex sentence where you've lost track of what you're even saying. So they do all these things, they adopt these behaviors and these techniques, which coupled with the right word, elevates their communication and they're perceived as being articulate. It's not a wish, they weren't born with it, it just happened perfectly. Right, let's get to the homework, the skills raising exercises. This is focused on how you increase your vocabulary. Now I know there are lots of apps and word a day calendars, etc. I'm not terribly in favor of those. It's impossible to learn a new word every single day and truly employ it and use it with understanding in your day-to-day speech. It's unlikely to happen. What I advocate is stretch yourself. Cast the net a bit wider. Challenge yourself to start reading and listening to material from a wide variety of sources outside of your usual comfort zone. So find an online newspaper, read journals, listen to podcasts right here on YouTube, anything where you're going to be challenged and exposed to new vocabulary. Every time you come across a word you don't know, immediately just take your phone and look it up. Look up the definition of the word, screenshot it, and stick it into an album marked vocabulary builder. Now you've got the word and you understand the definition. Then go back and look up how the word is used in, say, five different sentences. So you're then going to see the sentences using that particular word. Read it aloud. Okay? You're trying to take on board that word and its meaning in an actual sentence, how it is used in real life. So read it out, a few times, the 5 sentences. Then my next part of the challenge is go and write your own sentences using that word. Again, 4 or 5 sentences, using the word correctly in the sentence. You can double check to make sure it's right, look back to the definition, make sure it's correct, show it to someone else if you want, but ensure that you're using the word correctly in sentences you created. And again, as I always say, read them aloud. You need to hear yourself using this word. Then your goal is to begin to incorporate that word in your day-to-day speech. So naturally, don't use a word that is so arcane that nobody else is going to know what it means, or you're not going to be able to call on it. Arcane is something that is not well known, mysterious. So that was just me throwing in an unusual word in there. If it's going to be part of your daily vocabulary, then yes, find that more elevated word and introduce it into your daily speech. That way you're making sure that when you reach for the big bucket, not only do you know what tool you're looking for, but you know how to use the tool when you get it out the bucket. This is doable. It just takes discipline and practice. I guarantee you've got this. Thank you as always for your time, and I'll see you back next week.
All eyes on me.